today. My name is Emmeline. I'm on the SEMC side on the operations team. I'm here to help make sure that everyone has a great experience getting started and using SEMC. I'm joined by Drew, who is also on the SEMC side, and Danny from IUA. If you'd like to give a quick introduction of yourselves.
Yes, I'll start. Guys, thank you for being here today. Eddie and I have been working with SEMC for some time now, trying to create a platform where we can bridge our retail agents to our companies. As you know, we do a lot of small business with many great carriers, and then it's always about like how we can provide a better turnaround time, better product, better competitive premium for our retail agent. And SEMC platform have been a great tool that we saw it will bring value to us as well as our retail agents, where you guys are going to be able to, from a single entry, get up to 7 different carriers that we have already access to. And IUA is working on getting more carriers on board through the SEMC system. So it's only going to get better, and SEMC system have been upgraded over time. So, we already always see a new improvement every month. So it's a great system. We value the SEMC's capability as well as the staff that they have. And in combination of SEMC's platform and IUA, we want to bring you a better experience working with our agency. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. You will find this time effective and a great time.
Thanks, Danny. And I can give a quick SEMC introduction before Emmeline takes over and walks everyone through a trial and shows you how to use the product. But SEMC, as some of you might know, we're a comparative rater platform on the small commercial side. So we're really excited to be partnering with Danny here to be able to bring you quoting with IUA. And what we'll allow you to do is for our 24 or so carriers on the platform, you'll be able to quote both your appointed carriers side by side with carriers that you access through IUA. And you'll be able to quote those IUA carriers directly on your version of SEMC, so you can see those quotes with as quick a turnaround time as possible. So again, we're really excited about this partnership, and I'll turn it over to Emmeline to show you how the product works.
Thanks, Drew. So I'm going to share my screen. In just a second, if I can figure out which tab to use. So this is the SEMC platform. This is what it will look like when you log in for the first time after you've gone through our onboarding flow. So in the onboarding flow, you're going to enter your basic agency information. You'll let us know which carriers you're directly appointed with. And then we're going to assign to you the IUA carriers that you don't have a direct relationship with, so that you'll automatically be able to quote with them when you start using SEMC. When you're in the platform, what you're going to see on your dashboard is the most recent applications that have been created by users in your agency. If they're completed, you can review the details. And if they're still in progress, you'd be able to pick up where you'd left off. All of your answers are saved when you're using the SEMC platform, so you can start, stop, and pick up an application whenever you want to. If I scroll down, I can see some general industry and carrier-specific news and updates. I can also see the markets that are available to me. Some of these are markets that in my demo retail agency, I have a direct appointment with. And if I want to, I can click a link directly to that carrier's portal. And then some of these markets I'm accessing via my relationship with a different parent agency, is what we would call it at SEMC. So for you, these would be markets that you're accessing via your relationship with IUA. They're going to appear here for you, but because you don't have direct access to the actual carrier portal just through SEMC, you wouldn't have a link to that carrier portal. But you can get an overview of the carriers that are available to you in the My Market section on your dashboard. The first thing that you want to do as an agent when you're getting started in SEMC is go to your settings, where you can add your carriers. So on the front page, the only carriers you'll see are the ones that you're getting through IUA until you've come in to do this step and add the carriers that you have direct appointments with to your user settings. So in my settings, I can click Add New Carrier. I would pick the carrier I'd like to add from this dropdown. And then I would add in the username and password that I use in this example to log into the Acuity portal. And that's because when SEMSI is submitting to your directly appointed markets, we're using a combination of identifiers, which include the agency code for your whole agency, your individual username, and sometimes your password, to send that information through to the carrier so that we can accurately identify that your agency and that you specifically are sending that to the carrier. Your relationship with the carrier is going to stay exactly the same as it is if you didn't use SEMSI. Your commissions are going to stay exactly the same, both with the carrier and with IUA. We're just helping you quote more efficiently with your direct markets and with markets that you access through IUA. On this page, I can also add a contact at the carrier. That could be the underwriting contact that I work with for small commercial. It's not required. The only things that I have to add are my username and password for the carrier I've selected. Once I've added in the markets that I'd like to quote with in SEMSI, I can also go to my presets. Setting up presets is not required, but we do recommend it. The presets are questions or are 4 questions that we know agents tend to answer in the same way across different applications. So if in general, for all of my clients, I'm going to get $1 million as my liability limit, I can set that here. And this answer is going to automatically fill for me in my SEMSI application when I start a new one. You're not stuck with these answers. So for a particular client, I actually wanted a different liability property damage deductible, for example, I would be able to change it in that particular application. It just makes it faster for me to review and update as needed instead of answering these sort of standard default questions or questions that I would typically answer the same way for most clients, each application that I create. Once you have added your carriers and set up your presets, it's easy to start an application. You just click this plus sign in the top corner. I'm going to create an application for Pink Olive, which is a stationery store. You can see that we've quoted it before in SEMSI because it appears as an existing client. And when I select one of those, it's going to pre-fill some of the client information from my previous application. If I scroll down a bit more, I can also see Google listings. Those are from the Google business listing. And if I select that, it's going to open up a page that shows me some of the business information that's available via Google. I can take a look at the information, confirm that it's correct. If I want to, I can even link directly to the address in Maps. The platform is going to remind me that I've actually quoted this business before, and I'll actually go ahead and select an existing record. On this first page of the SEMSI form, I need to let SEMSI know what the insured does. This NAICS code has pulled in from my previous application. I could also search for a new one if their business had changed, or when you're starting a brand new client, you will need to search the NAICS code. And we have a smart search feature that allows you to easily find the NAICS code that's most relevant to the business by allowing you to search not only the NAICS description, but also all of the subdescriptions. I will say, no, this is not an LRO. This is also not multi-location. SEMSI currently does not support multi-location BOP applications, although that is in the works and we expect to see that later this quarter. I'll say the mailing address is the primary business location. If it were not, I would be asked for the primary risk state. We can pull the address in from that Google business listing or from the previous application. And if I did type it in manually, we're going to check it against the USPS database to make sure that it's a legitimate address that the carriers will accept. My contact is also pulled in from my previous application. I could change it or add another if I wanted to. Now I can select the policy types that I'd like to quote. I can select any combination of policy types on this screen, and I can also select accord forms. This can be useful if you think you might want to submit this to a carrier that doesn't have an online quoting platform, or you don't have an accord form for this risk. I can select whichever ones I'd like, and those are going to be populated based on my application answers. So if a carrier question maps to the accord question, we'll fill that in. And we also add some optional accord-only questions for you if you'd like to get a really complete form. I'll pick just BOP for now. And if I had selected those accords, I would be able to download those at the end of my application process in a fully editable PDF version of them. Now I can select the carriers that I'd like to get quotes from. And on this page, I'm able to select carriers that I'm accessing via my demo parent agency at the same time as selecting carriers that I have a direct appointment with. So I'll just go through and pick a few. Apparently CNA does not have appetite for cards and stationery stores, so I will not pick them. We also have a feature that's going to help you find the right class code for your carriers by suggesting to you the carrier-specific business classification that we think most closely matches the NAICS code that you selected up front. So if you remember, I picked a stationery store code at the beginning, and SMC is telling me for Liberty Mutual, here are my options for the different types of retail store that might be a good fit for that NAICS code I picked. And I can just select from these options the one that I think is the best. If I wanted to, I would also be able to search, in this example, all of Nationwide's business classifications to see if I can find a different one that I like better. But we're pretty happy with this feature. We think that it helps agents select the right carrier-specific class codes more efficiently as they're getting started in SMC. So I'll just pick one more carrier and then I will move on. Once I have selected my carriers and my carrier-specific class codes, and I've said what policy types I'd like, and let SMC know where the risk is, I get to the main form. And SMC generates this for us based on all of that information, going through our thousands of carrier-specific questions in our database and condensing and deduplicating as much as possible so that I'm presented with the smallest number of questions to satisfy all of the different carriers' informational requirements. If I'm ever interested in which carriers are asking a particular question, or if I want to see if there's a tooltip or some help text with a question, I can click on this little question mark, and it's going to let me know that in this example, this is a Guard and Nationwide question. Sometimes, like with this business entity type question, we're not actually able to fully collapse all of the carriers, so I can see the 3 carriers that I've selected here. And that's because they each have a slightly different list of answers that they'll accept. But if I select an answer that is on all of their lists, it'll fill in for me, so I don't need to pick it again. We have a flagging feature that helps you get through the form by flagging questions that you may not have the answer to. So we know that the client has an FEIN, we just don't know what it is. I'm going to flag this question and move on. SMC doesn't make you answer the questions in any particular order. I can answer the questions in the order that makes the most sense to me and skip around throughout the form. So I've answered all the questions that I have on this page. I'll click continue. SMC is going to let me know that I haven't finished all the required questions, and it's actually brought me back up the page to the first question that is required that I haven't answered yet, but I can continue. And I can use this left-hand navigation to get to any section of the form as I'm going through to answer the questions that I'd like to before going back to the rest. I know that my business profile section is not complete because it has this little alert next to it, but once I answer the rest of the required questions, I'll get a check mark. And once I have check marks next to all of the sections of my form, I'll be able to submit for quotes. Once I've gone through and flagged the questions that I need to get in touch with my client for, answer the rest of the questions that I have information for, I can view all of those flagged questions in one place by clicking on this flag button at the top. So this has brought me to a page that has those flagged questions on it. I can input my answer here, and it's going to go back into the main form as well. So I don't need to worry about transferring this information, re-entering it, unflagging. It's all saved for me in the main form. So maybe I get my client on the phone, I can review these with them quickly all in one place. Or I can also copy the questions to my clipboard and paste it into an email if that's how I'd prefer to communicate with them. SMC also has a notes feature. So if I click on this little pencil icon, I can see any notes that have been left for this particular application or client by any other agents in my agency. You may have noticed that there are some optional questions. They're all going to say optional after them. And we do have a new feature that allows you to filter out the optional questions and show only the required questions. And so that's right here. I can select show only required, and it's going to hide those optional questions, allowing me to get through the SMC form as quickly as possible without being distracted by those. The last thing I'd like to show you in the SMC form is knockout questions. If you answer a question in a way that we know your carrier is not going to accept, we're going to let you know that that's a carrier knockout, in this case for Guard. I can take a look at what options are available to me. SMC is going to let me know what the answer needs to be for me to not be knocked out. I can decide to continue with the application, knowing that Guard is going to decline my client based on this answer. I could remove the carrier from my application entirely and not answer the rest of their questions. Or maybe I'll take a closer look. Actually, I don't think that my client does take part in this activity. I'll say no, the alert goes away and hopefully I will get a quote. So I'm going to take a second to pause and see if there are any questions on anything that I've gone over so far. Please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A. I can also see that there are a couple of messages in the chat, so I'll take a look at those.
Yeah, and I can start with the first question that was in the chat. It was around some carriers having both BOP and package products, and does SEMC quote both? The answer is right now, SEMC quotes BOP for those. We are adding our first package product, I believe later this month, which will be the Liberty Custom Protector. And the plan for this is that eventually it'll be in a way where you can quote these businesses where you're not sure if it's a BOP or a package in one space, and then SEMC will decide which path makes sense based on the class code and the carrier appetite. But that said, for now, they will be BOP quotes.
Great, and I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, but feel free, please put those in there if you have them. So once I have finished my SEMC form and I have check marks next to all of the sections of the form, I'll be able to click submit and send the information through to the carrier portals. So I'll take a second to show you what that's going to look like for you on the quote results page. So for this King and Queen stationery, we got some BOP quotes. We also submitted for some workers' comp quotes, and I can view them all on the same page to get a full view of what's out there for the client. Once I've clicked submit to send that information through to the carriers, a client record is going to be created. A quote is pulled back out into SEMC, as you can see here. And if the carrier typically blocks at that point, the market would also be blocked for the carrier. And I'll be able to view the carriers that I'm accessing via IUA, as well as the carriers that I'm directly appointed with right on the same page. If I'd like to compare the quotes that I've received for BOP, I can do that by clicking on the circle in the corner and then clicking compare quotes. And I'll be brought to a page that has a more in-depth breakdown in the difference in coverage that's being offered to me by the different carriers that I've chosen. I can actually download this information as a spreadsheet or as a PDF. And the PDF allows you to select specifically which line items you want to include on the download that you could then share with your client. And that's going to be a nice looking download that has the name of the insured as well as your agency's name at the top. Something else that I can do on my quote results page is take a look at my application answers. Maybe I'd like to review the information that I input for this client. I'm able to do that here, and I can actually filter by which carrier I'm particularly interested in. This is available to export to a spreadsheet as well. SEMC is going to tell you as much as we can about the responses that we've received from the carriers. Often it's going to be a bindable quote. For this traveler's quote, it's a bindable quote. It's no further action is required to be able to move forward with that for the client in the carrier portal. Some of them are going to be referred, obviously, require referral to underwriter. And when we can, we're going to tell you what the referral reason is with this little message functionality. And then sometimes, of course, there's no quote provided and you just have to go into the carrier portal to provide some more information or work with your underwriter. And if I click on this link, it's going to take me straight to Hanover where I can do that. For the markets that you're accessing via IUA, you won't obviously have direct access to the carrier portal, but you can let your contact at IUA, and I think for everyone at the moment, that's going to be Eddie. You can let him know that you'd like to move forward with one of these quotes, provide whatever information you need to get that issued and bound for your client. And to do that, you're going to click submit for review. It's going to ask you, are you sure that you want to submit this to your to IUA to have them review for potential underwriting and binding? And when you click yes or submit for review again, it's going to send an automated email both to you and to your contact at IUA to let them know that you'd like to move forward with this particular quote. If you selected the Accord output, that's also going to appear on your quote results page. I think I can show you that if I go back. So if I scroll to the bottom, I can see the different Accord forms that I selected on this particular application. I would be able to download those. And as I said earlier, they're going to be in a fully editable PDF format that you could add to, change if you needed to, and use for whatever you'd like. So that is really sort of the whole SEMC platform. I see that there are a couple of additional questions. So I'll take a look. Oh, maybe not so many questions. The time that it takes for the quotes to come back is a question that we hear pretty often. We connect to the carriers in two different ways. One is via API, which is a very fast, direct computer-to-computer connection, and you should expect to see those quotes coming back in less than a minute or even seconds after you click submit. In order to give you more options, we also can connect to carriers that don't have APIs for all of their products by using a process called RPA, which is robotic process automation. And essentially what we've done is build a robot agent who can do the application on your behalf in the carrier portal. And that can take a bit longer. It'll take a few minutes to get your quotes back, but it does mean that we can connect you to more carriers. I think happy to answer any other questions that come up, but if there's not anything else I can show you in the SEMSI application, I will go instead to a slide that shows all of the carriers that are currently available. And please let me know if you do have any questions. I'll keep an eye on the Q&A. So these are the carriers that are available currently in SEMSI. If you see the little asterisk, that's a market that you'd be able to access via IUA if you're not directly appointed. And this list is also available on that landing page that you saw.
I'm like, we're not seeing that list.
Oh, you're not? Darn. I need to share again, I think. Thank you. Are we seeing it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so these are the carriers that are available to you when you are quoting in SEMSI. And like I said, if you see the asterisks, it's one that you can quote via IUA if you're not directly appointed yourself. And then we're also always working hard to add additional features and functionality to the platform. Carriers that we're working on adding in the near future are on this slide. And we're also always interested to hear from our agencies which carriers are important to you. So if there are some that you don't see on either of our lists, please let us know. And we love to hear about the carriers that you're interested in having on the platform. And it really helps us decide who to approach next. So all of you who are here because you submitted a request on our landing page. Some of you may not have requested onboarding yet. If you have not, please feel free to do so. We would love to get you set up on the SEMSI platform. All you need to do is let us know your name, the name of your agency, and your contact information, and we can send you a link to get your agency set up. If you have already requested onboarding, you should have already or will very shortly receive a link that will allow you to set your agency up. And then after that, we'd just love to hear your feedback. We're very interested in hearing what agents like and what they think we could add to the platform. So feel free to reach out to us anytime at support@semsi.com. I'm happy to answer any questions now about getting set up or getting started if there are any. All right, it seems like there aren't. We think SEMSI is very easy to use, and we're really happy to share it with you and to work with IUA to give you access to even more carriers when you're quoting in the platform. Danny and Drew, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Right. So as you know, we're giving a free trial period. So feel free to sign up. You will have so with the SEMSI system, you're gonna see at least 6 carriers currently. For both BOP and workers' comp. So definitely give it a try. And then if you can give us a feedback, if it's good or not. And again, we will give you option to add on to your login for carriers if you like to use your own agency code, so we can make that happen as well.
Great. And the last thing I'd say, I know Emily mentioned this, but as you go through the onboarding form, again, we think it's we try to keep it as straightforward as possible, but if any questions come up, reach out at support@semsi.com, and we're very quick about responding, and we can set up some time to help you get set up. So we want to make sure everybody gets on and tries your first quote as soon as you can.
Okay, so there was a question from Thomas about if a quote is submitted through SEMSI but it is ineligible, will IUA automate shop it to other carriers? if you choose the Accord option, and then if we are able to download the Accord application, we will also send it to the markets that is not provided in the system, but we need, I mean, we do have few other carriers that we can quote online internally at IUA. So we'll try to see if we can do that. But at the same time, if you can also include the Accord, then we can send it out to the markets, then we can send it, send the submission to get a quote. So it depends on the type of business. So it's not a straightforward answer, but we'll see what we can do.
And if you are using the Accord functionality in the SEMC platform, to get that as complete as possible, you'll definitely want to answer the optional Accord-only questions, or else that information would be missing from your application. So that's something to keep in mind when you're quoting in SEMC if you do select the Accord option. Awesome. Any other questions before we let everyone go? Great. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining us today. We're excited to be working on this with IUA and hope to see you all on the platform soon.